Tonight on Let It Rip, the debate over discipline. A closer look at the rules regarding spanking or hitting your children. The fine line between punishment and abuse. But first, the Free Press and its list of the 5 worst mayors in Detroit's history. Sparking a big debate tonight, one of the 5, Albert Cobo, who was accused of being a racist. So the question tonight, should Cobo Center change its name today because of what happened in the past? Time to Let It Rip. On the panel tonight, a true daughter of Detroit, a former City Hall insider, now running her own public relations firm. Karen Dumas is back. Next to her, writer, lawyer, co-founder of radio station 89X, Lex Cooney is ready to rip, and so is Cliff Russell. After 3 decades in politics and broadcasting, he's got his own show on 1200 AM WCHP, weekdays 10 to 1, Detroit Speaks with Cliff Russell. Also with us, the man who made a documentary about the city he loves. Anthony Brogdon put his time and money into showcasing the best of what Detroit was and what he hopes it will be. And as always, the hardest working man in television, Charlie Langton, is here as well. Now, a little later, we'll be talking about corporal punishment. Is it ever okay to hit your child? But right now, we're talking about Cobo. Karen, is it fair to rip the name of Cobo Center now because of allegations of what Albert Cobo did in the past?
I think that's just a complaint of convenience. I do think that there are branding opportunities for Cobo, for Shane Park. I even think the fists should be branded if in fact somebody would pay for it. You know, they say Cobo was racist. If that's the case, you'd have to strip the name off of a lot of things in this city. So I think it's just, you know, the convenience. Free Press did the story, then it came up at the DDA meeting. I kind of feel like maybe there's another Dan Gilbert purchase branding opportunity coming out of this somewhere. It's not a bad thing. So
that's what some people say, that if you want to call Albert Cobo racist, should you not say the same thing about Coleman Young?
Well, the distinction between racist and racial sometimes can be different, and I don't know if Cobo was necessarily racist, but he certainly did play the race card a lot. I'm a big fan of going back to history, and he died in office. This complex was named after him out of an outpouring of sympathy. You know, don't name big buildings because somebody just died. You need to take a big, deep breath and step back. So there might have been a mistake of history that the city made 50 years ago when they named it after Cobo, because he wasn't a great mayor even in real time, that they should have named him after this. They should have named it after Stevens T. Mason or Hazen Pingree or something after that, but it wasn't cool. So I think that if you get somebody to pay for it and be a corporate sponsor, the problem is your standards are different. You might get somebody who wants to write a check who you might not like. Do you really want the auto show coming in to Toyota Center?
Well, but that's the question, Cliff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money involved here.
If you're going to put corporate naming rights on it, do it. That is the wave of the future. Yes, Cobo was a racist, but let's not run away from our racist history. We need to let folks know who Cobo was, leave the name there, because not only did he exhibit racist practices as mayor, the good folks of Detroit, Michigan named that building after him. They knew he was a racist when they put his name on there. So let's keep it there and let's understand our history. That deals with the racism now as opposed to what Albert Cobo did in the past.
He just died at the right time. It was a good career move.
Well, Anthony,
he got the building name.
You made a movie about the city of Detroit, and
Yes.
You explored the history, but you say that Detroit is more than just bricks and mortar. It's about memories and relationships.
It is so much true, but I don't feel, to answer the question about renaming Cobo, I don't think you should. I think you, again, would have to go on a witch hunt in so many other buildings and think who said something during that time, if we should name that. I think we should concentrate on how beautiful Cobo is now. And the renovations that have happened. I've walked through the building on tours and whatnot, and I'm just amazed at what has happened with Cobo. As a kid, I went to Cobo for auto shows and conventions and conferences, and I just love Cobo. I don't want to have to call it anything else.
But there's an opportunity to generate revenue. I think that's been the issue with the city in the past. We've not looked at all the opportunities to create additional revenue. Then I think it needs to be considered. Like you said, it is the wave of the future. They're branding opportunities.
What about tradition? Pine Knob, where's Pine Knob? They switched the naming rights to Pine Knob. Oh, come on. Cobo Hall's been around for 50 plus years.
But Chicago doesn't tour, man. We don't go to Pine Knob anymore. Chicago's not touring.
Well, but you know, when you have
Brad doesn't tour anymore.
Comerica Bank pays the Tigers, what, $2 million a year for the naming rights to Comerica Park. Why not make some money by selling the naming rights?
I have a question. Is that on the table? Is someone
well, look, we invited the Cobo Authority, members of the authority, and members of the development group down here to Let It Rip. They spoke to us by phone, but they did not want to appear because, frankly, this is such a hot issue.
Right.
You know, I want to get back to whether or not some of our forefathers were racist. I think that's an opportunity for us to really understand who we are. Check out Lewis Cass's record when it comes to Native Americans. If you look at the piece that Bill McGraw did in Deadline Detroit a while ago, all of the early fathers of Detroit were slave owners. We'd have to take the name off of half of Detroit if we got rid of all the
in fact, you're both graduates of Cass Tech.
No,
Yeah,
I did not
so
go
let's
to
get to
Cass.
the kids.
Anthony, you did.
I probably say such.
You mentioned that article. The Free Press listed the 5 worst mayors in history, in the history of Detroit. Topping the list, Kwame Kilpatrick, now serving 28 years in federal prison for corruption. Richard Reading. The Free Press said that his nickname was Little Dick, but he turned out to be a big con man taking bribes from the rackets. Charles Bowles. He was recalled by voters after only 9 months in office. Albert Cobo, the driving force behind a lot of the big development in the city, but he also supported housing discrimination and using race to win re-election. And Mayor Louis Mariani also went to prison, not for corruption, but for income tax evasion. So we have a rich, bright, sometimes dirty and dark history.
You know what? Go big or go home. You know, we got to embrace the history, and you know, if you're gonna be corrupt, might as well end up in the can.
Well, I mean, the city is a business, and we need to look at it as such. That's been the problem in the past. This was something that I floated around in terms of recommending that parks be branded. I mean, you have a lot of corporations that are interested in supporting the city. I think branding is an opportunity for them to do so.
So would Dennis Archer's name be suitable for some buildings, some highway, street? You think?
I work for him. I'm going to say yes.
There were some really. I was surprised that Justice Archer was not on the top 5 great mayors of Detroit, but those were some really good top 5 mayors. Look, you had the 5 worst, the 5 best were pretty fine. So he was close.
I want to say thank you to the Free Press for, first of all, pointing out that Coleman Young was one of the greatest mayors ever. But to reveal the actual history of these, how many people drive by Cobo every day and say, "Oh, Albert Cobo," and had no idea?
We do this every day. We do it every day to so many buildings. Meanwhile, Detroit, this night is celebrating its 313th birthday. We've come a long way from being a fur trading post. So, what do you see, panel, as the future of Detroit? What do you see in the next 300 years for this city? Cliff.
First of all, I hope we finally get regional mass transportation. I don't know if we'll get it in 300 years. I think Detroit is going to be like every other city in this country. Frankly, I think there's a lot of consolidation of money, resources, people, upward scale folks, educated folks into the cities. Gentrification is on like crazy across the country. I think Detroit is going to be just another city.
And I think a really strong positive that Detroit has, and Michigan especially, is we have the Great Lakes. If you're going to be unemployed or underemployed, you might as well be hydrated. And I think a lot of the people who left Detroit and going to be in the Sun Belt, they're going to be coming back. They're going to be drinking water, and they're going to be taxpayers, hopefully within the next
California wants our water right now.
They're not getting it.
I think Detroit will continue to try to figure itself out and redefine itself over the years. I think that's been one of the challenges. We don't know who we are or what we want to be. I think we're going to continue to see pockets of development and positive things, but the neighborhoods have to be addressed if we really want to be a comprehensively positive city.
And the man that made the movie about Detroit, what do you see?
Bold predictions. We're going to be the comeback city of the year in 3 years. Our population is going to increase by another 50,000 in the next 5 years, and it's going to be touted around the world that Detroit is a great place. It's the great Detroit again.
We are writing history as we speak. Panel, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Still to come on Let It Rip, the debate over discipline. Is it a good idea to spank your children, or will sparing the rod spoil the child? We've got parents and 2 judges ready to weigh in when Let It Rip continues.